Hi Bookish Besties, my name is Brittany. This is Rescues and Reads. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you're already subscribed, as always, I appreciate your continued support. Thank you for returning to another video. Today, it is time to review all the books that I read in 2024, as well as talk about some bookish stats. Alright everyone, Happy New Year. If you are watching this video on the day that it's posted, it should actually be going live on the very first day of 2025, which is absolutely wild. I am so incredibly excited for the year to come, and I hope that you are excited to come along with me. Now, for the past couple of years, I have started every single year by quickly running through all of the books that I have read, and I'm going to be adding to that today by also doing some yearly stats to begin the year, so we kind of know where we started, and maybe we can do a little bit of a comparison at the beginning of next year as well. Now, this video is always really challenging because it involves me making an absolute mess of my library because I've had to destroy my shelves to take all of these books off, and then I'm going to have to put them back on. So that's going to be a really fun time. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and quickly run through all the books that I read in 2024. The first book that I completed was a book called Morgan Is My Name by Sophie Keach. Last One at the Party by Bethany Clift. The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. Mercury by Amy Jo Burns. The Fury by Alex Michaelides. Close Enough to Touch by Colleen Oakley. Only If You're Lucky by Stacey Willingham. The Vanishing Season by Dot Hutchinson. The X by Alifair Burke. Crooked House by Agatha Christie. Autobiography of a Face by Lucy Greeley. The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. The Chain by Adrienne McGinty. Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grant. Fractured by Karen Slaughter. No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. Happy Place by Emily Henry. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. When the Stars Go Dark by Paula McLean. The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. The Teacher by Frida McFadden. Not a Sound by Heather Gutenkopf. Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Confess by Colleen Hoover. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Dachshund Through the Snow by David Roosevelt. The Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James. The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. Neon Gods by Katie Robert. Defend the Dawn by Bridget Kemmerer. The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. The Last One by Will Dean. Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. The Women by Kristen Hanna. Someone Else's Bucket List by Amy T. Matthews. Symphony of Secrets by Brendan Slocum. 0 Days by Ruth Ware. Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. Murder Road by Simone St. James. The Haunting of Blackwood House by Darcy Coates. The Banker's Wife by Christina Alger. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. The Huntress by Kate Quinn. The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Creep by Jennifer Hillier. Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. The Therapist by B.A. Paris. Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda. Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. The Resort by Sarah Ox. Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. I Did It For You by Amy Engel. Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. The Plot by John Homph Corlitz. It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. Funny Story by Emily Henry. Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. America's First Daughter by Stephanie Dre and Laura Camoy. A Ghost of Caribou by Alice Henderson. If You Tell by Greg Olson. Evocation by S.T. Gibson. The Return of Ellie Black by Amiko Jean. My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. The Invisible Husband of Frick Island by Colleen Oakley. Girls Like Us by Christina Alger. The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meisner. If I Die Tonight by Allison Galen. Falling by T.J. Newman. Middletide by Sarah Crouch. The Housemaid Is Watching by Frida McFadden. Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. My Darkest Prayer by S.A. Cosby. A Quiet Life by Ethan Joella. X by Sue Grafton. The Orphan's Tale by Pam Jenoff. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. Becoming Family by Alicia Whistler. Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. Tiny But Mighty. Kitten Lady's Guide to Saving the Most Vulnerable Felines by Hannah Shaw. A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson. The Book of Two Ways by Jodi Picoult. All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. Hamilton, The Revolution by Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jeremy McCarter. Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher. Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. Bad Tourists by Carol Carver. Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Beyond Reach by Karen Slaughter. The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. Like Mother, Like Daughter by Kimberly McCrae. Heartland by Serena Bowen. Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. Crazy Stupid Bromance by Lissa K. Adams. Someone in the Attic by Andrea Mara. Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Sleep Tight by J.H. McCurt. Five Survive by Holly Jackson. Jackson. The Night We Lost Him by Laura Dave. Running Wild by K.A. Tucker. Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. Madwoman by Chelsea Beaker. The Situationship by Abby Jimenez. Binding 13 and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. Shadowheart by Meg Gardner. The Girl in Keller's Way by Megan Golden. The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. A Winter in New York by Josie Silver. Homefront by Kristen Hanna. The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. The Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. Why is For Yesterday by Sue Grafton. Waylaid by Serena Bowen. Say You'll Still Love Me by K.A. Tucker. And There He Kept Her by Joshua Moling. Isn't It Romantic by Lissa K. Adams. The Stolen Marriage by Diane Chamberlain. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Recolak. The Book of Witching by C.J. Cook. The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda. The Inmate by Frida McFadden. The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. Surviving Ice by K.A. Tucker. The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Allie Carter. The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The Warsaw Orphan by Kelly Rimmer. Gray After Dark by Noelle W. Ely. The Family Experiment by John Mars. Drowning by T.J. Newman. A Home for the Holidays by Taylor Hahn. The Coworker by Frida McFadden. The Clinic by Kate Quinn. Rental House by Waikiki Wang. Between You and Us by Kendra Broquise. And the very last book that I read in 2024 was Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice by Elle Casamana. Okay, sorry for any angle change. I had to clear some memory from my memory card. So those are all the books that I read in 2024. Now let's go ahead and quickly run through some of my statistics for the year. Now I will say that there is a tiny bit of a discrepancy because my spreadsheet says I read 159 books, but Goodreads says I read 160. So I don't know if the spreadsheet is wrong or if Goodreads is wrong for whatever reason. There is a one book discrepancy. So I don't actually know if I read 159 or 160. On average, I read about 13.25 books a month, and I had a total page count of 56,953. Out of all the genres that I read, I classified 2 as classics. Now again, I know that's not a genre, but for the purpose of this tracking, I am considering it a genre of its own. I had 38 that I classified as contemporary, 1 that I classified as dystopian, 12 fantasy, 11 historical fiction, 1 true horror, 3 literary fiction, 3 magical realism, 19 mystery, 4 nonfiction, 3 pure romances, 4 sci-fi, and then 53 thriller. So in terms of percentages, thrillers ended up being 34.4% of all of my reads in 2024, and that is really not surprising. Thriller to this day remains the largest genre that I read, but the fact that it's only 34.4% I think is pretty good. It does mean that I did break it up quite heavily with other genres. Contemporary is the second largest category at 24.7%, and that also makes sense because I do like to read a lot of contemporary fiction. Now it could just be straight contemporary like women's fiction, it could be contemporary romance. I don't read a lot of straight romances. A lot of the books that I read are more contemporary in nature that do feature a romance, kind of like Emily Henry or Abby Jimenez. I don't feel like their books are pure romances. Their books are more contemporary with a side of romance, you know what I mean? Just like there is fantasy with a side of romance, and then there's fantasy romance. So I do feel like I'm more likely to read contemporary than I am romance. Fantasy only ended up being 8%, and that makes a lot of sense because I'm a very slow fantasy reader as I like to read them immersively, and as I've said a million times, I very rarely have time to actually sit down and physically read anything. Typically, if I am reading a fantasy immersively, it takes me at least a month to get through one of those books. Sci-fi was a very small 2.6%, but I'm not mad about that. Sci-fi is not a huge genre of mine, but I've discovered some books that I really love this year that were science fiction, so I wouldn't mind getting more heavily into that genre. Mystery was 12.3%. There is typically a lot of overlap that you will find between like a thriller and a mystery or something like that, or detective fiction, so I just kind of do my best to try to put them firmly into their own categories. And literary fiction only made up 1.9%, which I'm not surprised at all by because I do not love literary fiction. Hi friends, Editing Brittany here. So I didn't realize prior to filming this video about all the books that I read and my Bookish stats for 2024, some of my stats were actually messed up, primarily the ratings. So I actually switched reading tracking spreadsheets halfway through the year. So from about January to June, I was using one spreadsheet, and then from July to December, I was using another. I did that just to kind of test things out to see which one I liked better. And when I was about to make the video, I inevitably transferred all of my stats from the first spreadsheet to the second. Naturally, it didn't transfer as smoothly as I would have liked. So I ended up having to to update a lot of things, and I didn't actually realize that a lot of the ratings didn't transfer over correctly. In fact, a lot of them transferred over as 4 stars. So the number of 4 stars that I was showing when I filmed this video was astronomically higher than it should have been, and I can't believe it didn't actually click with me when I was filming the video. So what I ended up doing was I went back through, and to the best of my ability, I updated the rating for these books. So I'm actually going to go through the ratings as they stand right now. So when I'm looking at the ratings for my overall reading year, I was very fortunate in the fact that I had very few ratings under 3 stars. I only gave 1 book a 2 star. I gave 6 books 2.5 stars. I gave 27 books 3 stars, 34 3.5 stars, 75 books were 4 stars, 9 were 4.5, and 3 were 5 stars. This graph says I didn't DNF any, but I definitely did. However, I don't like keeping track of DNFs on my main spreadsheet because when I put it into my spreadsheet, a book that I DNF, it still incorporates that book into my statistics, like in terms of books read and the page count and stuff like that, and I really don't want it to count at all. So I don't incorporate DNFs into this spreadsheet. There were 4 that I actively did not rate, and overall my rating for the year was a 3.69, and I feel like that's pretty standard, but that is on the higher side. You know, that is closer to a 4-star overall rating than it is to a 3-star overall rating. So since the 4-star rating were definitely a lot higher than any other rating I gave, I think that's indicative of the fact that I'm doing a lot better job of picking up books that I know that I'm going to like. And I'm hoping to bring that energy even more so into 2025 with the intentionality that I'm bringing towards my reading. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to come on here and do that quick update. Now back to Past Brittany and the other stats. In terms of the audience, 151 or 95% of the books that I read in 2024 were intended for an adult audience. I read 5 YA and 3 adult, and total those only ended up being 5%. So this is definitely indicative of the fact that I'm moving firmly away from YA, new adult, any of the younger age ranges. I'm firmly planted in the adult age range. In terms of author category, 56 were new to me, and 103 or 64.8% of the books that I read were from repeat authors. And I love that for me because it means I'm being consistent and I'm going back to authors that I know that I love. It means that I'm continuing or finishing series. So I really love that the repeat authors currently outweigh the new authors. I have definitely made it a point to focus on backlist titles and series, and a lot of those are going to be by authors that I have read previously. Now I am getting to a point in my reading where I feel like I have more flexibility to try new authors. I've whittled down my physical TBR to almost nothing. My virtual backlist TBR is very, very low as well. A lot of the stuff on my TBR these days are going to be newer releases, and a lot of those newer releases may come from authors that I have never read before. I'm hoping that as we go on, the categories even out a little bit more, especially since I've also gotten my series down to a highly manageable level. So hopefully at the end of 2025, there's a little bit more of a balance between new to me authors and repeat authors. In terms of the type of book that I read, 155 of them were pure novels. 2 of them I classified as novellas, although one of them was technically a short story, and 2 of them I classified as reference just because they are nonfiction, but they're not standard narrative nonfiction. So I put those more firmly in the reference category. In terms of how I read those novels, 147 of them, 92.5% were listened to 100% via audio. 1 of them was ebook, that was just that short story by Abby Jimenez, and 11 of them were hybrid reads, so I immersively read them. And then the last stat that I have here is where I actually sourced the books that I read. 8 of the books were listened to on Spotify, 53 were listened to via Audible, 40 were listened to via Everand. The short story was read via Kindle Unlimited. 49 of them were checked out from my library. So I got a good use of digital material from my library this year. All right, everyone, that is it. Those are all the books that I read in 2024 and some stats to go along with them. Please comment down below and let me know how many books you ended up reading in 2024, and let me know what kind of bookish stats you like to see, because I am going to kind of change it up just a little bit in 2025 with regard to what I actually track. So let me know if there are some specific stats that you would like to see, or if you've made it to the end of this video and you are not feeling chatty, go ahead and just leave me like that data sheet emoji for the statistics that we talked about here today. And as always, if you like this video or if you just like me, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I typically post 2 videos a week, one on Wednesdays, one on Sundays, and I would love to connect with you in any of those future videos or on any of my social media platforms or my newly announced Patreon, which you can always find linked down below along with any books featured in the video, except of course for this video because I am not about to link 159/60 books for y'all. But until next time, y'all, bye.